Good morning, everybody. Dave Neal here with the Morning Rush Hour podcast, January 3rd, 2025, our first Friday of the new year. We got a lot of content to get to. On today's episode, former Bachelorette Ali Fedotowsky spills tea on Caitlin Bristow's Off the Vine podcast about her experience with Ellen DeGeneres. I'll share what she had to say, and a new source verifies that Ryan Reynolds was angry but never berated Justin Baldoni. This after Justin claims he was screamed at in his new $250 million lawsuit. I'll share what that source had to say. And we've got updates on the timeline of the New Orleans New Year's Day attack. Plus, we've also got Laura Owens' mother, Jan Black, responding in an interview to those questions if Ron Owens' GoFundMe is a scam, and the question about who is responsible for the GoFundMe and why is their identity being hidden. We'll have all of that, plus the heartbreaking moment. A walk-on player for Georgia cost his team a touchdown. It's a viral moment, but for all the wrong reasons. I got those stories and so much more. It's all coming up next on The Rush. You never want to be in the news if you're a walk-on football player in college, especially if you weren't even suited up in that game. But Georgia player here in street clothes gets in the way of the referee, and they actually take back, or I guess they cause a 15 or 14-yard penalty and had to settle for a field goal. Watch this moment here as the player gets in the way of the ref accidentally.
Extremely dangerous. So, yeah, that's a good call.
Clearly, in the field is Parker Jones, number 39.
So this guy, Parker Jones, he's number 39. He's a walk-on sophomore redshirt player. Hasn't played a snap, and he's essentially a cheerleader at this point, and he gets in the way of the ref, and it costs them major points. They ended up losing the game, but it probably wasn't because of that play, although it'll be very tough for him, I guess, to return to Georgia. You don't want to be him today. Here's some good news. Let's start with some good news here while we get the Friday morning going for you. How about this story? From 150,000 pups to none at all, fur seals return to California islands after 150 years. Well, yeah, they're procreating not like rabbits, I guess like seals. Here they are, 150,000 fur seals swim off the Farallon Islands, I guess, which is near San Francisco. They were nearly gone after, I guess, the 19th and earliest 20th century when they were, I guess, hunted for blubber and pelts. A conservation treaty signed by the U.S., Canada, and Russia banned their hunting in 1915, and the new legislation designated the Farallon Islands as a wilderness. It was passed in 1972. So over time, their population almost went away, but I'm here to report the major news on this Friday morning, the first Friday of the new year, that the seals are back, and they're back strong. So good for those seals out there. All right, you might wonder if you're feeling a little chilly out there, what the hell's going on? Well, we have a polar vortex. One of those words we all know, but we don't know what the hell it means. Here's Brute America explaining exactly what a polar vortex is. Again, you can feel smart with your co-workers as you talk about the cold weather coming our way.
The polar vortex is a large area of low pressure and cold air surrounding the Earth's poles. It is present year-round, but is stronger during the winter months. The polar vortex is typically well contained by the polar jet stream, which is a band of fast-moving air currents that encircle the vortex. Most of the time, the jet stream is strong and stable, which traps the cold air within the Arctic region and prevents it from spilling toward lower latitudes. Occasionally, disturbances in the Earth's stratosphere cause the polar vortex to become weakened or distorted, allowing cold air to escape and move southward.
All right, so the cold air, it's escaping, it's moving southward. Some people are going to blame this on the aliens. Some will blame it on the fog. Some are going to blame it on that Georgia player who botched the touchdown. Either way, it's chilly out there, so definitely dress accordingly. And speaking of chilliness, how about former Bachelorette Ali Fedotowsky explaining to Caitlin Bristow on Off the Vine podcast her beef with Ellen DeGeneres. Now, as you guys know, if you follow our podcast, we interviewed earlier this year Ali Fedotowsky's husband, Kevin Mano. But now that Ali Fedotowsky's got a new TV show coming out in a few weeks, or actually this week, I think, let's get her on Driving with Dave. You guys send her a DM. Tell her I'm ready. Let's see. She has to respond to my messages. But either way, I'd love to interview her. Here she is on Caitlin Bristow, good friend of the program's podcast, discussing the chilly vibes she has with Ellen DeGeneres.
Did you ever meet Ellen DeGeneres?
Yes.
Was she nice or no? she made me feel pretty not great.
I hate that.
What?
I've heard that so many times.
Yeah. It's not that she was mean per se. She just made me feel stupid.
Yeah, she does that.
I remember that when I was on her show, like I was so excited to be on the show. And I don't think she's a bad person. I just think that sometimes I bet when you do a job like that all day, every single day for years, you're just kind of over it, right? And then here, in one, she's talking to people who are like crafted. Here I am, this like 24-year-old, like famous for no reason, comes on her show and she's like, I gotta talk to one of these idiots again, you know?
And by the way, that's how Kelly Ripa feels when she interviews all the bachelorettes. She's like, I'm so above them. You can totally feel there's like sort of an elitist vibe there. No, but imagine Ellen DeGeneres every day she's going to work. She can't be chipper all the time, although she has developed, I mean, she was kind of soft canceled really after former employees came out and were saying, hey, yeah, she was brutal to work for. So, hey, look, just because she's funny and affable on camera doesn't mean she's, a nice person off.
Oh, and I was like, I went out on the show, I was dancing and everyone comes out dancing. And I'm like, hi. And I was like trying to be funny and like personable. And she, instead of like laughing with me, she was laughing at me.
Oh, I hate it.
Do you know what I mean? So I felt really stupid.
I think the world protected me from ever going on her show because they say don't meet your heroes, and she was mine all the time. But I think it would have been really disappointing for me.
Yeah.
And now I just dislike her because of everything I've heard from.
I'm the same way. Ellen DeGeneres, all I ever wanted was to have enough success where I could dance with Ellen DeGeneres in front of everybody. Now, I don't think so. So either way, we have a clip here. Actually, I think it's the next slide. Here's a clip from Ali Fedotowsky on the Ellen DeGeneres show. You know, in this clip, I don't really understand what Ali was talking about, but she did have multiple appearances on her show. So maybe there's something that we don't know about.
The season premiere of The Bachelorette airs tonight at 9, and we'll have to kind of watch and see who she falls in love with and is happy with, right?
Or not.
By the way, this is making me want to rewatch Ali Fedotowsky's season because I have no idea what happens. I really don't remember. Of course, she was one of Jake Pavelka's finalists. Dodged a bullet there. Holy cow! Either way, she bums the audience out by I guess saying maybe I found love, maybe I didn't.
I'm okay.
All right, we'll be right back.
So anyway, Ellen looks like she was mailing it in. Hey, Ali Fedotowsky, it probably had less to do with you and more to do with Ellen. But hey, you can come on my show and we will treat you just finely. We will roll out the red carpet. We'll wheel it out. We'll roll it out, whatever the heck you need. All right, next story up. Actually, we're going to get to some more serious news. We've got updates on the timeline that is being developed from the New Year's Day New Orleans terrorist attack. That story next. You know, I wish I could just have all stories like the seals that are procreating on the islands, but sadly, there's some real heavy stuff going on at the start of this new year, so I'd be remiss if I didn't try to give you guys some updates on all of that, which is happening with the terror attack that happened New Year's Day in New Orleans. They are now developing the timeline of what they think went down. Let's go to ABC News.
At this point, investigators believe Jabbar picked up the rented F-150 in Houston, Texas on December 30th. He then drove from Houston to New Orleans on the evening of the 31st, and he posted several videos to an online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS. There were 5 videos posted on Jabbar's Facebook account, which are time-stamped beginning at 1:29 a.m. and the last at 3:02 a.m. In the first video, Jabbar explains he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers, end quote. Additionally, he stated he had joined ISIS before this summer. He also provided a will and testament.
I just don't understand how, if this is all true, they didn't have this guy on their watch list. And I mean, again, who the hell knows? Really, who the hell knows? We're continuing to get a lot of information. Now, how does the Las Vegas attack compare to the New Orleans attack? Are they related? It doesn't look that way as from the information they've got right now. But they are finding out that the suspect in the Las Vegas attack, they did both rent cars from Turo. That's the main thing they have in common. And they are both American-born veterans served in the military. And the self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. They later found out happened. I guess they couldn't get the body out of the Cybertruck in Las Vegas because, it was just, a terrible experience, transporting the vehicle to another site and combing through all the evidence, the firearms, the fireworks, and all that. Here's what the sheriff has to say about the comparisons between the man they've identified or believed to be the suspect in the Las Vegas attack and the New Orleans suspect.
Our subject is 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger. He's of Colorado Springs, Colorado. I would like to acknowledge a couple of things because I know what's going on in the social media world, and there are a number of things in this case that are similar to the attack in New Orleans. We do know that our subject here served in the military. In fact, he's a current member of the military. Both of the subjects served at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. What we do know about that is it's a very large military base, and we have no record that they served in the same unit or even at the same years at Fort Bragg. I also know that they both served in Afghanistan in 2009. We don't have any evidence that they were in the same province in Afghanistan, the same location, or the same unit. Again, something else that remains under investigation. And we also know, of course, that they both used the rental company Turo to rent their vehicles. As far as his military background, it's been confirmed by DOD that he was indeed in the United States Army. He was also a Green Beret operations sergeant who spent most of his time at Fort Carson, Colorado, and in Germany. He was on approved leave from Germany, where he was serving with the 10th Special Forces Group. He was also previously in the National Guard and the Army Reserve.
So it's so complicated because here is a guy who I guess they're claiming is a Trump supporter. And again, that, in and of itself, not that interesting. But what's interesting is blows up a Cybertruck in front of a Trump tower. So obviously, this is political in some sort of way, but you'd have to be pretty deranged to be either one of these suspects here. So I don't know if there's going to be any more information that comes out about the motive. I think it's pretty crazy to go blow up your truck and kill yourself in front of a Trump tower in a Cybertruck and not release some sort of manifesto about why the heck you're doing that in the first place. Very confusing. I personally don't think they're linked, but we're going to save space to find out if there's any more information that comes out. The very interesting thing, though, is, and this is why politicians, they're just scumbags, to generalize. But politicians will use this to kind of push whatever narrative they want. So early on, you had people saying, this is why we need to cut down on immigration. And by all means, there's an immigration issue in our country, by all means. But these were two American citizens that were veterans of our own U.S. military that committed these atrocious, what appear to be terrorist acts, right? So I think anyone who's using this to kind of like blame people and policies, I think it's completely misguided. Here's what's interesting here. We have, is it Jessica Tarloff is her name? She's a correspondent on Fox News and defends the fact that, look, these were American citizens. We have a big issue, but if these aren't connected events, it could just be something that's more an issue of getting veterans the help that they need and dealing with a mental health issue more than anything.
Need to make sure that we have the right facts. And the right facts were that the guy in New Orleans was an American. He wasn't an illegal.
Nobody's saying he wasn't.
That's not true. That's not true. There have been Republicans who have been on TV today talking about how this is an open border.
I'll call them myself.
You call them. That it's an open border
not
problem.
Mutually exclusive. That's not a mutually exclusive problem. You can have someone who's homegrown,
but you know what they're
radicalized,
trying to do? They're trying to conflate it. They're trying to make it out to be.
All right, so they're fighting back and forth. And the argument that one is making here is that they aren't mutually exclusive. It could be that the terrorists are getting into the country, infiltrating our men. And it's like, look, I'm sorry. We shouldn't have anyone in our military that can be flipped so easily because a terrorist got into our country. It's clearly a bigger problem than that. But to Jessica Tarloff's point, you will see here that we've got the Speaker of the House, Johnson, reacting to the deadly terror attack immediately by trying to place blame about the current administration.
Let me say something else that's obvious, and I don't know if enough attention is being paid to this, but we all know that for the last 4 years, The Biden administration has been completely derelict in its duty. The congressional Republicans, we here in the House and the Senate, have repeatedly asked the DHS under the Biden administration about the correlation, the obvious concern about terrorism and the wide open border. The idea that dangerous people were coming here in droves and setting up potentially terrorist cells around the country. We have been ringing the alarms. We impeached.
All right, so look, I mean, honestly, this is gaslighting to me. It's an example of pissing on my leg and telling me it's raining. I mean, look, we have an issue in our country. We need to get down to sort of the motives behind these things that are going on. But I don't know what else we can say about that. All right, well, we've got Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni updates. We have sources that are now saying that Justin Baldoni's $250 million lawsuit, which claimed that Ryan Reynolds yelled at him in ways that they've never seen before. A source says that's not what happened. I'll get to that, but first, let's play what ABC News is saying as they now report on the story.
Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni are kicking off the new year with new lawsuits. Baldoni suing the New York Times, essentially accusing the paper of only telling Blake's side of the story, while Lively is filing a federal lawsuit, doubling down on claims Baldoni sexually harassed her, then launched a smear campaign to protect himself. New dueling lawsuits between actress Blake Lively and her It Ends With Us co-star and director Justin Baldoni.
It actually gets worse.
Baldoni and others are now suing the New York Times for $250 million.
All right, so we've already covered all of this, but in that $250 million lawsuit, there are allegations that Ryan Reynolds went off on him in front of other people. This source says that didn't happen. The source says he was angry but never screamed or berated Justin Baldoni. Again, this is an anonymous source, so we don't know exactly who's saying this. A source tells TMZ the meeting did go down last January, as It Ends With Us was to resume production after it was stalled by industry strikes. Everyone in attendance knew Justin Baldoni's alleged behavior would be addressed, so there was zero blindsiding. The source says Ryan Reynolds was not screaming and berating Justin, although the source concedes he was angry and stern, adding Ryan Reynolds spoke in an impassioned way, but it did not rise to the level of screaming or berating. Justin said in his lawsuit the encounter he had with Reynolds was traumatic, and he had never been spoken to like that in his life. The thing that's interesting about this is there is also a Sony executive who was there at the meeting who they say has worked in entertainment for over 40 years. And that executive says they've never seen anyone be spoken to like this. I've worked in film for 10 years and I've seen people yell at each other. I've seen fights between A-listers. I mean, I've seen some crazy things go on. So for a Sony executive to say he never saw anything like this, I'd like for people to, who was in the room? Tell us exactly what happened, because the more that gets shared, she said, the less I feel like I know what the heck was going on. Okie dokie. Well, let's do this. Let's get into the Laura Owens story. The GoFundMe for her father is leaving a lot of people confused. I'll break that all down for you next. Okay, we've got updates to the GoFundMe that is being launched on behalf of Ronn Owens, the former radio personality out of San Francisco. Why is this interesting? Well, if you are new to the channel, over the last year and a half, we helped break down and expose a fraud that was happening. We had medical fraud that we exposed where someone faked the levels of HCG in a bachelor scam, a pregnancy hoax, pregnancy that never happened. It took over the news, and we've been covering it. By covering that case, it was revealed on June 10th that Bachelor Clayton Echard was owed $150,000 by Laura Owens, the lady who the judge claimed proved no evidence that she was ever pregnant in the first place. We also unearthed that this happened to Greg Gillespie and Mike Maricini and possibly a guy named Victim Zero, Matt. So at least 4 different men all had fake pregnancies, and she's spent a lot of money, time, and bandwidth trying to perpetuate those lies, according to all the information we've sifted through, including Fiverr logos on fake ultrasounds and reverse Google searching of craziness, and fake people were created to convince us that her lies were truth. I mean, real astroturfing took place from all that we could figure out online. We were threatened with a $100 million defamation lawsuit and all of this. Meanwhile, Laura Owens is the daughter of Ronn Owens, who has had health challenges. The reason this is so so interesting is because in the GoFundMe, they don't reveal who started the GoFundMe, just somebody named LL. Well, it was pretty easy to piece together, so we're going to share all of that. But news is coming out. The Mercury News is sharing the story. Ron Owens' friends set up GoFundMe amid health challenges. The longtime Bay Area KGO 810 radio legend revealed this week that he had been dealing with colon cancer and heart problems in addition to Parkinson's disease. Now, I feel bad for him and I feel bad for his family. What I don't feel bad for is the bill in legal fees that Laura Owens is going to owe Clayton Echard, $150,000. Now, the family clearly doesn't have the money if they can't afford his health care, which is interesting because just this past year, Laura Owens claimed she had, $400,000, $500,000 in her checking account because she was using Clayton Echard to quote unquote buy a home, which may or may not have been a hoax. We don't really know for sure. Either way, this article is interesting because we finally hear from Ron Owens' wife. Now, Ron Owens' wife has actually told the police that I'm some monster and that I'm kind of part of this crazy conspiracy against her daughter, but all the real information is always left out. In an interview, Ron Owens and his wife Jan Black, who are now living in Arizona, said they're aware that some might question why they'd be in need of financial help, or that some might even wonder if the GoFundMe campaign is a scam, given that Owens made a good living as a radio broadcaster. No. People think it's a scam because their daughter was committing a scam. That's why they think it's a scam. So it's not about whether or not he can't use the help. Black said that even their medical insurance, Medicare, and long-term care insurance couldn't cover all the residual healthcare expenses following multiple health crises, which also include pneumonia and COVID-19. So either way, they go on to say Ron Owens left KGO in 2021. He issued a statement saying he can't put into words how much I value the connection I've made with so many others. We've laughed, cried, gotten angry, and been puzzled by the events we've seen unfold in the world. The following year, Cumulus Media, the owners of KGO, abruptly announced that it was ending the station's news talk format. Ron Owens expressed resignation over the format change, noting that listening habits have changed with people no longer relying on terrestrial radio to get traffic and weather reports. That's right. I got your bomb cyclones over here. I'm giving your weather reports. I'm Weather Report Dave. I'll green screen the whole thing right now. We'll be doing polar vortexes, heat waves, floods. I got seals banging on the rocks, whatever you want. Whatever you want, we got it here, right? So yeah, times have changed from the terrestrial world to just doing this in our own backyard. Now, what's interesting, though, is those that committed to finding justice for Clayton Echard and all those other victims of really the Owens family. Justice for Clayton official posted this. LL is organizing this fundraiser on behalf of Ron Owens. Who the hell is LL? And why wouldn't they just give their name? Well, LL could be Laura Liz. Laura is Laura Owens, and Liz is Elizabeth Naylor, which is the birth name for Jan Black. Again, that is the beneficiary. So, whenever you're raising money for yourself, it gets a little dodgy out there, a little dodgy. And again, people have picked up on this. Someone says, please do your own research and Google Ron Owens' daughter, Laura Owens, before you donate. Use your best judgment to determine whether this is a scam or not. Laura is in the middle of a legal dispute and is being referred to the county prosecutor's office for potential criminal charges. Ron Owens' daughter is under criminal investigation. She owes $150,000 judgment to one of her victims. So these aren't people I know. These are random people that have been following this story. Clearly, look, Ron Owens could be a great guy. I don't know him, never met him. He's obviously got his fans out there, but it's crazy that his daughter could really damage his image in this way to the point where people are commenting on his GoFundMe for medical help saying, don't do it, it's a scam. Look, I don't know if it's a scam or not. People can do whatever the heck they want with their money. But as is being reported by Justice for Clayton official, Ron has good health insurance, Medicare, long-term care insurance, and soon $60,000 from his aging wealthy San Francisco residence. So there was some deleting and editing of the Mercury News article. It's been edited to include different quotes, which again, I lost it right there. But, just it's going to be something people look into, because you hate to say it, you hate when someone posts a GoFundMe, you hate to think that it might be a scam, but under the current circumstances, that being the fact that Laura Owens owes a hefty amount of money to Clayton, she tried to extort him to drop his suit against her for $1.4 million, threatened me with $80 to $100 million lawsuits, constantly threatening to sue people. I'm sorry if I'm holding my breath on this one. I hope he can get all the health care he needs. I wish we lived in a country where you didn't have to rely on GoFundMe for that. You guys know I'm an advocate, a robust advocate for universal health care. But in this case, I'm a little suspect as to the motives behind the GoFundMe. All right, look, we made it to the end of the morning episode. That means we've only got a couple more hours before you're back to your first weekend of the new year. Boy, have you earned it. Stick around. I got some content on YouTube today. I'll be on Patreon this morning, patreon.com/Dave Neal, if you want to be a part of the private membership community. Otherwise, click the link to one of these videos. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll catch you this afternoon. I'm Dave Neal. This is The Rush.